All right, we're going to get back to our meeting at 6:26. We are live on Zoom, Mr. Rotenberg?
Yes.
Great. All right, we are now going to deal with the report item titled 221 Monado Road, Park Dedication, License of Occupation, and Covenant Amendment. This report will be presented by the Director of Planning, Mr. Gregg.
Thank you. And through the mayor, I might just ask Mr. Rotenberg when he has a chance to. Mr. Rotenberg, could I share my screen?
Yes.
There we are. So this is a sort of point in time. The property at 221 Monado Road has gone through two rezonings, first for a campground and then there was for a housing development. And as part of the proposal for that, this is from the rezoning. This was the land use plan proposing housing development and really staying out of the stream corridor and off of the shoreline. And as part of that, there was a commitment to actually dedicate that as public park to preserve those natural features. That has been basically captured as part of the rezoning process in a covenant that is registered on the title of the property. And so this is a excerpt from that covenant. So you can see the areas that are labeled P1 all along the edge was sort of set to be dedicated as park. And at this point in time, the owners are following through. And so this last slide I'll show is the survey plan of parkland dedication, and road dedication is the other piece I should mention, along sort of extending where Monado Road is currently half a standard road width. This would be dedicating the other half. The adding 10 meters would have a full 20 meter right of way, plus there's a little bump in the, I don't think it really shows on the screen, to allow for a turnaround at the end of where currently there's a gravel road there. So essentially that is what's in front of us. Is it would need a couple of motions from council to accept the parkland dedication. There is also as you'll see in the area there, it's sort of in this, it's labeled as a license of occupation area. There's an existing bridge where that once this becomes parkland, that bridge, which is constructed by the previous owner and serves to connect the two sides of the property. The license of occupation would be a non-exclusive agreement to allow them to continue to maintain the bridge and use the bridge. It would still be, but that would be over public land, and so they would have to provide, insurance and cover the liability of having that there. But for the time being, it would essentially allow it to remain and function. As mentioned, there is future development on this site that we expect, and so the ultimate role of that bridge, whether it stays in its current form or changes or moves or something, that will be determined with the sort of phases of the development approvals coming forward. But that license would essentially put that in place and allow it to remain for now. The second piece that was requested that's in the report is a license of occupation to essentially enable studies along the marine shoreline, really on the upper part of the screen towards Olsen Bay, to see if there was a potential access to the water, pedestrian, kayak launch, that kind of thing. It would require some studies would have to happen in what would now be public parkland. And so whether that were archaeological, biological, geotechnical, those kinds of engineering studies that typically happen before you get down the road and sort of test the feasibility, that they've requested a license for that portion as well, just to keep that option open to do further studies. I'll just pause there and see if there are any questions from council.
Questions?
I have a question.
Councillor Kennington?
Okay, so Appendix E, page 5. Environmental compliance.
page are we on?
It's page 5 of Appendix E.
Page 97 on the
Thank you.
agenda.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm not seeing those page numbers. Okay. Environmental compliance, B, section B. At the reasonable request of the district, obtain from time to time at the licensee's cost a report from an independent consultant designated or approved by the district verifying compliance with environmental laws. I question the legality of the district designating a QEP in this situation where the district has sort of invested in this trail, because I know this is something that has been on the OCP and very much sought after for years. And I believe that wording should be removed, and it should be a qualified environmental professional. They're all licensed and they all have a code of conduct, and I don't think we should be picking and choosing. I don't think the district should be assisting a business and designating their services to a landowner. That's just my thoughts on it. It just jumped right out at me.
Any comments on that from staff?
Through the mayor, this was drafted by our lawyers. I think it's pretty standard language. And I think what it enables is for, if there's a consultant involved to do a study, the district needs to choose so that it is an independent, as opposed to, really just having to accept whatever report is provided. But this is essentially the boilerplate that was provided by our lawyers.
I see. It's the word designated, not necessarily approved, that I feel is maybe a little bit of overreach. But fine, if the lawyers think that's okay, then that's okay. I'm not a lawyer. I just don't like it.
I'm not a lawyer either. Maybe in this case, designated could just mean designated as a QEP. Like I feel like it's semantic, but I don't think this means that. I think this is designated in the sense of like prescribed rather than chosen.
I'm not reading it that way. A person that is designated by the district is not necessarily like saying, the type of work that they do. It's saying who that firm or person is that they're designating. Like they're saying you're using this person. That's the language I'm reading. I may be wrong.
If I may, sorry to interrupt, through the mayor, I think you're reading it correctly. So what I've seen in the past is where essentially it's if there's a question and an environmental study needs to be done, the district is under this license where we're granting the use of public land, that the district can choose the consultant of our choosing, and essentially the license holder agrees that they'll pay the bill and they'll reimburse the cost of it. So that may be under our purchasing policy. We may get competing proposals from a number of consultants and whatnot, and the one we choose is the one that if the district feels okay, this is going to give us the best result and best independent advice, then that's how it's sort of structured, and we've seen that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Gregg? Councillor Hoare?
Yeah, I had one. Now I have to remember because I got distracted by semantics of words, which I totally understand, and I totally get how you were reading it, Councillor Kennington. You said something, Mr. Gregg, about maintaining the bridge, but potentially the positioning of the bridge might change. So would that require a different license of occupation, or because I worry about moving something that's over a riparian area that's already been disturbed, and we're trying to get, less disturbed.
Through the mayor, I think it's highly likely that the crossing will remain where it is. Whether it stays as that bridge, whether it stays as a private piece or becomes part of a public road, all is to be determined and depends on future, the application and discussions with the owners of really what makes sense as the phases of the development unfold. At this point in time, we don't know how that's going to go, and so it really just keeps the bridge that's there. It's sort of covered. Okay, you can transfer the land, and otherwise it would be a leftover thing on public land. And so what the license does is deal with, it can be maintained, all the language around the environmental compliances, that there'll be no contamination of the public land, creating costs for the district. Sort of covers that off. They have to provide insurance so that if someone trips on the bridge, then if there's a claim because a board is out of place or something like that, it's not the district who ends up carrying that there's insurance in place to cover that as well. So it's a non-exclusive use of that area of parkland. I'll leave the bridge in sight, in place, if you will, for the time being. But again, in the future, it may be that it changes and the license isn't necessary, or is changed, or is replaced with something else.
Yeah, my concern is just that area, the bridge is already in existence, the minimum amount of disturbance to maintain the bridge in situ. But if that bridge gets moved, then there's disturbance to the site and an area that is potentially public parkland. That's just my worry, and I hadn't really thought about that until you made a comment about potential site moving, and then I kind of fit my
And
radar.
just
went
through the
off.
merit, but that would be subject to future decisions and approvals of council.
Okay, so
And
they,
so it would be only if there was an approved development permit for or subdivision, or a plan that had changed, and okay, this is a better location, and the QEPs are saying, okay, this is ultimately better for the park, and the council is satisfied this is a better plan. In that case, I suppose it could move, but I think that the likelihood is very slim, because in my experience, that an already disturbed area is probably where the biologists are going to say, well, leave the crossing where it is and improve it. Don't make it worse, and avoid the other areas.
thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, I have two motions that are slightly separate or slightly different than what's in the current package, and I'm going to move them separately. So, number one, I'll move that with regard to the development of the property at 221 Monado Road, Council authorize the following: A, acceptance of the parkland and road dedication as shown on Plan EPP 129243, and B, issuance of a license of occupation for the existing bridge.
I'll second.
Councillor Mafty seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? None opposed? That carries. And the second motion is that with regard to the development of the property at 221 Monado Road, Council refer issuance of a license of occupation to enable studies and surveys to access the feasibility of creating a dock access, viewpoint, or other pedestrian water access to staff for further investigation and a report.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? None opposed, and that carries. Thank you, Mr. Gregg, for that report.
We
Also, the other recommended motion.
Oh,
Two on your reports, and number 3 in your speaking notes.
right. The third. I will move that council indicate that approval of the above is subject to the owners agreeing to amend the restrictive covenant CB 365207, currently registered on the title of the land at 221 Monado Road, to ensure that prior to subdivision or development of the land, the property owners will remove objects and structures from the park area and leave the land in a clean state, including but not limited to A, greenhouse, B, woodsheds, C, deck platform and stairs, and D, any other man-made objects or materials.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? None opposed, and that carries. All right. Any notices of motion? We'll move into correspondence. There are two correspondence items. The first one is from the Wild Pacific Trail Society regarding Amphitrite Coffee Shop. Does anybody want to address that? It's clear from the letter they do not want to run a coffee shop.
It just keeps turning up on plans and people keep talking about the coffee shop at the lighthouse. So I sort of, I totally understand the stance, because environmentally, I'm not a big fan of that. Just saying.
Perfect. And the second one is BC Private Members Bill C-273.
I went too far.
Information items. There are 4 information items. The first one is a staff report provided for us entitled Council Strategic Priorities Update. Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is just the quarterly update on progress made with respect to Council's strategic priorities. If Council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions? I did notice on here that there was a community-to-community activity planned for January with Uclueletha.
Yes, that is the starting of that negotiation and conversation to get that ball rolling.
Great, thank you.
And thanks for the update.
Yes, thank you for the update. The second one is the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust 2023 Vital Signs Report. I think we all had a presentation about that at our last meeting. 9.3 Wild Pacific Trail 2023 Season Summary. Great work, as usual. And the last one is registration is open for climate change and healthy community gathering. And that's January 24th and 25th. All right, Mayor's announcements. Since this is our last council meeting of the year, just want to wish everyone a happy, healthy, and safe Christmas and New Year. And we'll see you all back in January. Councillor Anderson, what have you been up to?
I know I'm forgetting something here, but the major one was the fourth and final thank you for the reminder. Decolonize First course that was put on by ACHN. So that was good. That was the final one today. They were from like 9:30 a.m. till noon, over 4 weeks, every Thursday. And it was really insightful. It was good. It wasn't what I thought it would be. It was actually kind of fun, and it's all about just sort of looking at things in a different light. And we went into these groups, and you did it, Mr. Greg, you did it, and it was actually pretty cool. I think like having everybody just have these chats about what they can do better, and then we had guest speakers from First Nations that talked about the changes that they'd like to see, and it was thoughtfully done, and it was a meaningful exercise, and I think it was worthwhile, and it was good to do. And that's it for me. Although I am forgetting something, but if I remember it, I'll come back.
There was another meeting from Alberni Clayoquot Health Network that you and I and Mr. Gregg attended last week about stigma. I can never say that word. Reducing the stigma of poverty, and
Right.
that you don't remember that.
It's all a blur.
That was last week.
That was so last week. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, the strategic.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
I remember that. Well, the interesting thing with that I remember was that I think we needed to we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit there, and they wanted action plans, and we said that before we implement anything, if I remember this correctly, let's just step back a bit and reach out and see Because work on relationship building was the outcome of that before we have these hard and fast things. But yeah, thank you for the reminder.
All right, Councillor Hoare.
That was amazing, by the way. Other than the sort of workshops that we had last week, going into budget season, I attended the Trail Society meeting last night. And they're already planning for Whale Fest, so watch out for a busy week for Whale Fest.
Nice.
And you all got the summary was in our reports today, and it's lot of interactions. They are really hoping to build on what happened last year and have like those events happening basically every day between their partnerships with the other groups and their own naturalists. So it's always super exciting to do the hear about the education stuff. No other meetings because, last night and now today, so nothing in between. But because we're going into Christmas and I'm wearing my little hats, my ears, I just want to remind everybody that tomorrow night the Glee Club is putting on their performance of Scrooged, the West Coast Christmas Carol. So doors open at 6 and the play starts at 6:30 and everybody is welcome, and bring cash because we don't have a little square for you to tap your card for entrance. And I'll tell you right now, I'm probably at the door saying, if you don't hand me $10, you don't get in. I'm that person. But come out, it's a lot of fun and it supports the kids in the neighborhood, and you'd be amazed at some of the voices those kids have. They have their rehearsals on Tuesdays when we're often in council, and sometimes when we take a bio break, I poke my head in and see what they're singing. And so I've had a couple of previews. It's worth a little time. So Saturday or Sunday night. Yeah. So I expect to see you all this weekend. Just saying. No, I'm not going to sing a little bit right now because like the Christmas songs and I are not best friends, unfortunately. Maybe the Grinch song. I could sing the Grinch song. But I think my heart is already big. Oh, and yes, thinking about hearts being big. We have been working on the reverse Advent calendar for the last almost 3 weeks. So the last day of that is Saturday, which is the Stuff the Cruiser Day. So we've been doing a focus on a lot of baking items this week. And then the last couple items are, and so put your thinking caps on for this one, are about maybe your favorite treat when you were a kid for Christmas. So if it was, for me, it was like, I loved the Toblerone bars. So I tend to put one of those in, or maybe a couple of the small ones. I also always wanted crispy or Captain Crunch cereal, and I was never allowed to have it. So I always put a box of that in because I'm sure there's some kid out there who also likes Captain Crunch cereal. So I like it. So the last couple are always the fun ones because you can think about the things that you always wanted, and if you can afford to do it, please pick up a little spare and drop it in the donation box at the co-op. And they are doing Stuff the Cruiser on Saturday when they focus on non-perishable items. If you come in, the food bank peeps will have a little list of things that they are looking for in particular, extra non-perishables, and they just encourage people to pick up anything that they can afford to do to help out the local peeps. And they will be doing their Christmas hamper distributions on the 21st. And have you guys got all the angels off the tree yet?
They were just getting the rest. We got 6 today and we're getting the rest. Tomorrow's the deadline, so we usually get swamped on the last day.
Okay, so go...
For submissions.
Right. So go down and see Judy down at the Gray Team and make sure that all the kids get a little something under the tree. So pick an angel. It'll give you the information and you can go out and find an appropriate gift, and just to make everybody's Christmas that little bit more special. So there you go. That's my heart is already full, but I could...
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Kennington.
It's been a quiet couple of weeks for me, sort of, but nothing to report. other than we did pick an angel, which we do every year. And it does feel good, and it's a great thing that Judy Gray's doing. So I encourage everybody to go down there and make somebody's Christmas.
Yeah, I like the fact that the information on the back is the whether it's a boy or a girl and what the age is, right? So that you can shop accordingly. It's great. Councillor Mafty.
Nothing to report at this time.
I envy you all. My goodness. Okay, November 22nd, I was at the ACRD meeting by Zoom. The only West Coast thing on that agenda was that the airport got some money set aside for a loader, whatever an airport loader is. So.
Front loader, it probably looks a lot like the kid's little toy truck.
Just much bigger.
My brain is.
I too was in the Decolonize First workshops. So the second one was on the 23rd. The third one was on the 30th, and the fourth one was today. Participated in Midnight Madness. I hope everybody did that. That was a great night. The weather was beautiful. The streets were packed with people and baby buggies and dogs, and quite different from the following weekend, which was the Tofino event, Jingle into Christmas, and it rained that whole weekend. So we lucked out on ours. 28th was the pre-budget workshop that we all attended. On the 30th, I attended the 4VI, which is formerly Tourism Vancouver Island. They had an event here at the main hall to, where Denise gave an update about her leaving, and she cried, and as well as the what 4VI has been up to, and the fact that they just received an award from Tourism British Columbia. Yesterday was the West Coast Committee at the District of Tofino. We're finally getting back into switching it up, so it's not just on Zoom. We're going to rotate our locations, which is the way it used to be pre-COVID. So it was nice to get together with everybody at the District of Tofino. The two sort of things that really jumped out, the Watt Consulting did a presentation about the West Coast Transit that was supposed to start mid-January, and now it's starting in April. So we questioned what the delay was, and it was just getting all their paperwork and ducks in a row and figuring out what the fares are and how to pay it. But there will be a total of 42 bus stops, 6 in the District of Ucluelet, 24 in the District of Tofino, 1 in Tyastanis, 1 in Esowista, 4 in Atatsu, 4 in the park, and 2 for some reason at the junction. So a total of 42 stops. I think what they're doing in Tofino is they're just utilizing those bus stops that already exist for the shuttle that's there. They're just using those same 24 stops. But and I think the whole service begins here at the community service every morning. So look for it in April. And the other thing was, the West Coast Committee approved a 10-year lease agreement with the Long Beach Golf Course and Campground, starting April 1st of next year. So they apparently they're doing a lot of upgrades out there. The board is, and they have the campground operating in the summer as well. So those were sort of the two interesting things from the West Coast Committee. This morning I had my resort community mayors meeting on Teams, and we just do a monthly check-in with each other to see what everybody's up to. And like I said earlier, they're all excited because their ski season is just starting, and they're all ski resorts, except for Dan Law and I, and we were saying how quiet it was here. And that's it for my meetings. Question period. This is an opportunity for the public to ask questions about matters within Council's jurisdiction. Representations about matters that have been the subject of a public hearing are not permitted at this time. Are there any questions from the audience? Patricia, please take the mic.
Oops, just a bit. Now I've broken it. Anyway, Patricia Sieber, 1058 Helen Road. I sent you via email a letter which, because I didn't know that the topic was going to be discussed, I didn't get it in 5 days ahead. So you probably will see it eventually, and I won't take too much more of your time. It's just about, it's basically some questions about the development that's proposed for High Focus. I know that there will be a public meeting. They have stressed that there will be a time for public input. I'll save most of my concerns for that time. I just wanted council, and I have witnessed you being very fiscally responsible, so I'm sure these things are in the back of your mind, but just to reiterate our concerns, I know that development fees pay for, or are supposed to pay for, infrastructure and things that are with new development. But I am wondering if they will cover 100%, and will things that are not part of the High Focus development be covered, like Helen Road is obviously too narrow to support 300 more families coming down our little road, especially from the Causeway to Marine Drive. So these things, if there's expense connected with that, I guess as a taxpayer, I want to make sure that you know, that Ukilet is not taking on that expense of the things that would need to be upgraded, not necessarily on High Focus, but the effects of it. And also the sewage lagoon is a big elephant in the room. And nowhere in their slick presentation do they call it a sewage lagoon. They talk about sanitation services, and I just worry that people who might be looking at investing in it are not realizing that there's actually a sewage settling pond there. It's not just some connotation. And if they say that they will assist in finding ways to mitigate this, but they didn't say that they will pay for mitigating this. So I just want these things to be in council's mind as they go forward, and I'm trusting that you will look out for those of us who do live on High Focus right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. And yes, all those things are on our minds. And you have a councillor that lives very close to High Focus as well.
Yes, yes. Yes, I know.
No other questions from the public? Are there any questions by Zoom or telephone, Mr. Rotenberg?
It doesn't look like we have any attendees via Zoom at this time.
And have we received any questions via email to communityinput@ucluelet.ca?
Sorry, just give me a moment. Yes, we did receive one question from Mr. Bosman, Chris Bosman, and he was just asking if council would be dealing with the item 6.6 today, because he wasn't aware that it had been moved from 6.2 to 6.6.
Right. Okay. I will move that the meeting be closed to the public in order to address agenda items under section 90 brackets 1 bracket C of the community charter. C, labor relations or other employee relations. The meeting is now adjourned at 7 o'clock. Okay, so I need a seconder for that motion. Councillor Mafty. Councillor Anderson, we're still. Okay, all in favor? And Jennifer's not here, so that carries. We just had to move, second, and vote.